Assalamu alaikum, dear students. I hope everybody was able to join in. I can see 9 attendees. Let's wait for another minute or two. Meanwhile, we are waiting for your classmates to join in. I hope you already know that your attendance is taken automatically, so you don't have to worry about that. All you have to do is that you need to join in, right? And today we'll talk about something that we have talked about, but today I'll be sharing certain detailing with you so that in Monday's class you can exercise the comprehension and the techniques of story writing and plot analysis properly. We did have a class already on plot analysis on one of the short stories written by O. Henry, The Last Leaf, and you have uploaded it as well. But narrative writing in general is part of or type of writing where narrative is involved, where story could be involved, and there has to be some kind of attachment or contribution towards it. Now, narrative writing is not only considered or confined to short story writing. It is also about narrative report writing, narrative paragraph, or narrative essay, or text for that matter. So, narrative writing in general is a type of writing that includes storytelling in one way or another. Now, storytelling is mostly considered and realized with fictional storytelling, but it is not a necessity. If I am going to tell you my डेली रूटीन, अगर मैं आपको अपनी रोदात बताने वाली हूँ कि आज क्या हुआ, कैसे हुआ, कितने बजे हुआ, that will also come under narrative writing. So, narrative writing in general has certain techniques that we probably know, but we are going to take a look at it to make it more clearer for us. If we try to define narrative writing, narrative, as the name suggests itself, is a story, right? Now, within the narrative, there could be a fictional story that make up all of the events. Events could include the plot we have talked about. Other than that, there could be, neutral narrative, personal narrative, collective narrative. And if we talk about personal narrative, that will be a true story based on what has happened in your life. For example, if you're going to tell me about my daily routine, that would be counted as personal narrative. Now, that personal narrative can include or take further um, um, clarification and further evolvement. That depends, right? Now, if we talk about how narratives are written and why do we need to learn, now there are many ways through which methodologies through which characters and certain feelings, certain projects can be realized. So, therefore, these techniques of narrative writing, now within the narrative writing, we could have descriptive details as well. They tell us, they talk about what has happened. Let's say that you have a project on some kind of mines or rocks or certain places you have been investigating, then you need narrative writing to narrate about it, that how you went there, how you were able to gather the data. So those detailing could include description as well, that detailing could include personal narrative as well. So narrative writing is a vast technique that one needs to know. One of the characteristics of narrative writing could be it is able to engage and orient the reader by establishing a context and point of view. Point of view is यानी किस perspective से बताया जा रहा है, that could be included, and in introducing a narrator or characters organize an event sequence that unfolds naturally and logically. Now, order is usually, as we already talked about, the order in paragraph writing, in speech writing, and much more. In most of the write ups and spoken form, the order is usually beginning, middle, and end point. Now, if we talk about narrative writing in general or specifically, we probably have the same headings that we discussed in the previous class: introduction, rising action, then complication or climax, and then finally falling action towards resolution. So, even if you're writing a paragraph or an essay, you will be using this order um, in order to realize the story. Point of view another important part of narrative writing in which I and we may be used. the character can use, the dialogues can be added where two characters are talking to each other by using personal narratives or personal point of views or first person pronouns, as we call it. Second person pronouns can be there as well. When we read The Gift of the Magi, you remember the narrator was actually talking to us as well. Once, at one point of the story, the narrator used we and then he said you. So all those point of views are part of story writing. And then third person limited could be there as well, and third person omniscient can be there as well. Third person limited only sees the perspective of one character, that is indirectly, basically given the description about a character or action, or their action or reaction. And third person omniscient, now of course the narrator knows the thoughts of all characters. Now the audience will be able to see the story from many perspectives. Remember Della and Jim from The Gift of Magi? The story is mainly written from the perspective of Della. But once we unfold what has happened or what Jim has gone through, we can have an omniscient or an upper hand and understanding about the person or person's point of view within the story. So, this is a complicated technique, this is something complicated that could be added in narrative writing. Second characteristic is that we may be able to use narrative techniques where dialogues are important, the pace, the rate, the description of dialogues are important, and how certain events they are able to evolve, enhance the plot of the story and the characters of the story. Now, dialogues could be of many types, of course. Ones are the direct dialogues, the other one could be indirect dialogues. Depending on the complication or complicated level of the character, they could be of different type, right? Now, intent for each new speaker, you have to use quotation marks. We can use commas inside the quotation marks. Then, who said the words may be used. For example, if we look at this, okay, one second, let me add the student. Okay, so if we add, okay, Bushra ko, if you could inform, I've allowed her, but it still says admitting for a long time, so she should try again. So I was talking about the example of dialogue, how it could be written in intended form or in quotation marks. Look, wow, quotation marks में है. Jim said he walked down the airy hallway to his destination. I cannot believe it. Because the line, I cannot believe it, is said by Jim, it has to be written in inverted commas because it is something that Jim has said. So, this is how you can use inverted commas in creative writing in order to discuss certain dialogues of different characters. Now, back and forth conversations could be there as well. Look at that, Jim said. I know, whispered Joe. How do you know? I just do. Yeah, right. Now, you can stop using their names each time when they talk to each other. Although, when we are younger, when you are in school and high school, they teach you to write, dialogues by referring to the character's name. For example, Ali. Ali said hi, Ahmed said hello. तो हम बार बार नाम लिखते हैं लेकिन it's not a necessity once the conversation starts where see look at the first dialogue, look at Jim, look at that, Jim said, and the next dialogues can follow up automatically, and that can clarify for the audiences what the perspective is. Another interesting and worth looking into characteristic of narrative writing is that it can use transition markers, and they could include phrases and even sentences and clauses to showcase sequences, just like paragraph writing where we learned about first, second, third, fourth, etc. These sequence marker, these time markers can help sequence the narrative that we are trying to say loud. So these things, they definitely help. Some of the common transition markers can be seen on your screens. There are many of them. You should know at least how, these ones. For example, these are the fanboys, these are the coordinating conjunctions, and you already know about them. And then we can have subordinating conjunctions as well, and we can have phrases and much more. So transitional markers are one of the important characteristics of narrative writing as well. Okay, we can use precise words and phrases and descriptive details as well, and sensory language to capture the action and convey experiences. Adjectives are able to provide description and vividness to this story as well. Adverbs, they tell where and how something is being done or to what degree. And sensory language simply means where human sensory details are being included, जहाँ पर आप अपनी five senses को add करते हैं. For example, let's say the character heard something. The character would say, I heard the airy voice coming out of the blue. I could feel the breeze on my skin. I could taste the numbness of the atmosphere. तो जब ये feel, touch, sight ऐसे words इस्तेमाल किए जा रहे हैं तो sensory details use हो रही हैं, उसमें adverbs and adjectives को use किया जा सकता है. उसके अलावा in order to enhance sensory aspect of the short story or narrative writing, figures of speech can be used. What are figures of speech or figurative language? Basically, simile, metaphor, personification, hyperbole, and alliteration. These are the basic ones. Idiom you already know. It's an idiomatic expression. When coming together, they mean something else, and when we break it out, that would mean something else. For example, piece of cake. अगर हम इन तीनों वर्ड्स को अलग कर दें, piece of cake. Cake would be a noun, piece would be an adjective, and of would be a preposition. लेकिन जब हम piece of cake इकट्ठा कहते हैं, that becomes an idiomatic expression which simply means very easy. So such language expressions, phrases, and words may be used in narrative writing. Personification is when non-human characteristics are given to living organisms. For example, the wind was screaming, the tree was dancing, um, द कैट वॉज स्पीकिंग. तो ये सारी जो चीज़ें हैं ये रियलिटी नहीं है, इसलिए ह्यूमन करेक्टरिस्टिक को नॉन ह्यूमन करेक्टरिस्टिक्स के साथ जब जोड़ा जाता है, दैट्स personification. Similarly, on the other hand, is when we are comparing two things by using as or like. Metaphor is when you directly admit that that characteristic, that non-human characteristic, is applicable to certain expression. For example, I'll say it in Urdu to make it more relatable for you. Your parents probably, your father probably call you मेरे शेरों जैसा पुत्र या मेरा शेर पुत्र. अब जब जैसा यूज़ होगा, that will be a simile, my son like a lion. And if they simply call you my lion, that will be a metaphor. Hyperbole is exaggeration. Exaggeration का मतलब ये होता है कि information को बढ़ा चढ़ा कर जब बताया जाता है, that is exaggeration. And alliteration is the repetition of same sound. For example, Billy Bob Bright Blue BMW. तो ये ब साउंड जो है ये alliteration है. Then comes एक example है that you can look at your own. Then of course narrative writing provide a conclusion that follows form and reflects on the narrative experiences of events. So all in all, narrative writing tells a story. It writes events in a sequence or in an order. And of course, we need to remember the plot diagrams that are attached with it. And paragraphs could be of any size. And narrative writing uses proper grammar um, and rules of standard English in it. So, all in all, that was something that I wanted to share with you, that narrative writing could have multiple perspectives. I just shared five characteristics in detail with you. I hope you're able to, sulk it in.